Uh, we can talk about this too when we go live. I think I think I can say this. No shame to any previous employer, but this is like the best work week I've had in a long time. So
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
I love it. So,
I feel
and I
like
love that I can show you work things and be like, look what I'm doing.
I feel like right now I'm kind of like priming the spring. I've been working on all my AI tooling, kind of like testing it
Oh
out with a
yeah.
couple small PRs, and I'm ready to just like let that thing go and see how far it can take me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool just how it takes a lot of the monotonous work out, like the part that you don't enjoy, where you're just like, I just gotta do this to get to what I wanna work on, and so
Literally, like just the simple stuff like, okay, I'm looking at the UI. Where is this component? Because
mm,
even that has become difficult in big code bases. Like
yeah,
opening up the React DevTools, finding the component name, you look at it, there's 4 of them, all slightly different. You don't know which one it is. It's so much easier to just like straight up ask AI and it finds it for
yeah.
you.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. I, did not tweet about this. I don't know if you think we're not gonna I don't know even if the value of tweeting anymore. Oh. You mentioned Twitter are you still on Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter's my primary.
Still? Okay. I feel like I've just been absent for 3 months. Uh, okay. Well, I'm going to tweet about this.
Same. I'm also gonna put it in work chat. What do you think?
I don't know.
I tend to do that for my team
You
for like
okay,
interesting episodes. Yeah.
that's fine. The only reason I hesitate is like I don't know
We
what
can
the
hold
rules
off.
are.
I haven't been pestered about it. And like one time we were talking about AI something and I linked it and everybody seemed to like it. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see.
I figured as long as I get my stuff done.
Yeah, that hasn't been a problem
Cool.
getting stuff done.
Awesome. I'm gonna cue up the music and let's do it. Oh man.
It-
Where is it? It's overlay, sounds, music. I feel like every time they're making so many changes every time I log in, StreamYard's different. Okay. All right. It's like, how do I start this? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web design and development with a little bit of zest. In today's episode, it's just me and Brad talking about 2025, looking at all the good, the bad, the ugly, and some of the things that we're hoping to accomplish in 2026.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compress.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton, and new title, I am a senior design engineer at Cloudflare.
We're coworkers.
Amazing.
My name is Brad Garapi. I'm a senior systems engineer at Cloudflare who does front end development.
Awesome. And we got Jordan in the chat, another Cloudflare, Flarian.
Yo.
Oh man. Amazing. Yeah, so this week I started a job at Cloudflare as a senior design engineer, and so far I've absolutely loved it. I know that a majority of this week has all been about HR and process and signing up for benefits and all those things, but I really enjoyed it. I know that sounds dumb, but the last few companies that I've worked for have been smaller companies, and so a lot of it has been me asking, "Hey, what about benefits?" or "Where do I go for this?" And I end up being the one to ask for everything. The responsibility falls on me, which I'm not opposed to, but also you don't know what you don't know. And so it's nice being a part of a bigger company that is like, here is everything that you need to do. And I have a checklist to go through and there's process. And I know that there's politics that also comes with that, but so far I've just found it so refreshing.
Yeah, I always have, like, a metric to gauge onboarding in a new company. It's time to first pull request,
Mhm.
TTFPR, and, if you can measure that, I think it says a lot about how good their documentation is as far as the
Mhm.
development environment and, like, how easy the code is to understand, how fast the team can get you work, and all that, and so, like, I think the first day I had access to Cloudflare dashboard code, I had a pull request up, and I
Oh,
was
you
like, "That's
did?
that's a really good metric
Wow.
for me." Yeah.
That's impressive. So Wednesday, I got my first project. I designed out a landing page yesterday, and I'm pretty excited about it. So it's not going to be live for a while, but the nice thing about the team that I'm on, so I'm on the content team. It's the content engineering experience. Is that everything or most of the things that I do are all open source, and so I'll be able to share that and share the code, which is also exciting.
That is really nice. I've
Mhm.
had, I think, only one opportunity in my career to do open source stuff, and this is back when I was at Adobe. I was building some open source libraries for, like, event tracking on the front end, and I got to stream it, and I got to talk about it, and I got to post about it. That
Yeah.
was really cool, but that has just never come back around because I've been either um, like a platformy type position
Mhm.
where you're just kind of, like, working on platform stuff, or, like, some kind of product thing that you just can't talk about until it's out.
Sure, sure. When I was doing agency stuff, obviously a lot of that could not be shared because it's
Yeah.
business logic that's proprietary to that company. But working at Redwood, that was all open source. And then
Awesome.
the stuff that I've done with G2I is definitely not open source. So it's like NDAs. I can't even talk about it. But one thing that I do love about open source is just feeling like you're giving back to the community and being able to talk about it. So actually, let's talk about a little hot drama. We don't always get that. There
Yeah,
was some hot drama this week in the
yeah,
Tailwind space because there was a pull request for some LLM support. Basically, it was saying like, "Hey, I'm going to generate a Markdown file for you as part of your build step," and then people can click on a button. Maybe you've seen that in different docs where it's like copy Markdown, and then you can paste it into whatever chat you're using or Claude or whatever, and it has a little bit more insight into what you're trying to build. But Adam ended up closing that pull request and saying, "Hey, right now our docs are our best marketing tool and people aren't finding products to pay us, and therefore our business is suffering as a result of AI and all this usage. So for right now, I can't in good conscience approve this because I need to figure out the business model stuff." So it's kind of interesting just to see how the community responded to that. You got some people that were very supportive and understanding. And I think long term, it'll probably be good for Adam because he's now has a bunch of corporate sponsors that have stepped up and said, "Hey, this is like integral to our business. We want to help fund you," which is what should happen with open source in general. But then you also had some of the community members that were just accusing Adam of only doing it for a buck or two versus like being anti-AI and anti-community. So of course you're gonna get haters gonna hate and people that misunderstand on both sides. My hot take in all this, Brad, I'm kind of curious what your approach is. I think that both people want the same thing at the end of the day. I think both groups of people want Tailwind to succeed. I don't think there's any question about that. It's like, "Hey, I like Tailwind. I want to use it in AIs and LLMs." And Adam's like, "I need Tailwind to succeed because that's what my business is built on top of." So I think if you look at it of they're both trying to achieve the same goal, I think like they could probably reach a better understanding or give each other a little bit more grace in how they got there, versus like this huge blow up that it ended up being.
yeah. Like, AI needs, good systems that it can use to build things out with, and Tailwind is absolutely perfect for that. It's a very small abstraction, and it's incredibly digestible, so it works really well with AI. It's also been built into a ton of starters, and so because
Mhm.
of that, like, it's widely popular, easy to understand, it's easy to consume from AI. Um this was like the first domino to fall, I feel like, where like some project is getting knocked out by AI. But I think there's two ways or two things that happen here. The the more feasible short-term solution is somebody buys Tailwind or employs Adam and the folks who worked on it. I think that's not the best option at the end of the day because now a company owns it. And I don't think
Yep.
that's what we want. We want Adam to stay in charge and everything. And he probably would at whatever company. But it again, it's just one company running the show. I think the better option here is, and Cloudflare is trying to work towards this, is that there's this HTTP status for payments. And they were trying to like get the internet to start supporting this. I can't even
Oh,
remember the status code and it's killing me. Um, they were trying to get like support here so that every time AI or an LLM like reads your documentation or your website, you get a couple cents essentially.
ah,
You could like respond with the status code, it will, you know, pay out. And then creators of open source or of blogs or of popular sites with resources get paid. So could you imagine like
hmm.
the sustainable business model is like people get to make their own companies and their own open source projects. Just every time it's consumed, they get a couple cents and that starts to add up over time. And now I don't know how caching, ruins that, but it's just something to consider in the long term where how can we support open source? I think this is
So,
one way to do it.
Brad, I think you'll remember this episode. So, episode 103. So, this was 4 years ago. Well, technically three because it was in November. Um, but we had Max, I think it's Max Howell on, yeah, Max Howell on the
Uh-huh.
show. And he, I didn't know this until they reached out and said, "Hey, can we come on the show?" But he started Brew, which is crazy because I'm like, everybody uses Brew. I use Brew this week. But he also tried to iterate on that and create TXYZ. And this, to me, this is like a brilliant use of Web3, but basically saying, what is the stack for all the code that supports each other? And how can we help some of those core libraries that everybody uses, but really nobody knows about? And so we want those to be maintainable because they do support the infrastructure of the internet, which is pretty cool uh, that he had that project. I don't know the success of it or the status of it to know where it is now because that was 4 years ago. But I think this is a prime example of we all need Tailwind to exist because we're reliant on it and what we do. The models are reliant on it, but he also needs to be able to support a team. And so where's
Yeah.
that money going to come from?
Yeah. And again, this is not a monumental amount of money. Like you're talking about employing
Mhm,
4 people full time.
mhm. Right
That's
now.
nothing.
So he had, what was it 11? No, that's not right because he let 3 people go.
He let 3 go, but he said 75% of his engineering team. So,
Okay.
I guess,
Oh,
yeah, you're making up the salary for 3 people if you wanna just look at
yeah.
that delta, but yeah,
Well, I mean, I'd say even more than that, it shouldn't be like scraping to get by. Um,
it shouldn't. I mean,
yeah.
this is a foundational tool, like
Mhm.
and so I'm glad that people stepped up. I don't know if they were one-time donations or true monthly sponsors,
Yeah.
but, hopefully we can find a better sustainable business model rather than, like, having to go on the verge of running out of, money to get to this point.
Yep, yep. And I mean, what's kinda interesting is just coming from the open source world, at Redwood, we were so reliant on Tom's generosity to fund the Redwood project. But I mean, we had plenty of startups that had raised, I think like total $30 million for what they were trying to build. Um, but that's like core infrastructure to what they're doing. So it only makes sense that ultimately they
Yeah,
they should be giving back. So I understand the rub there in trying to figure out a sustainable model. Think one of the things that's interesting is how Remix handled all of that because they were sponsorware from the beginning. That
yeah.
was their plan forward, and then they obviously got bought out. Well, they became open when they had an investment from Google, and then got bought out by Shopify. So
Um,
kind of interesting.
there's another bit of drama that happened pretty much overnight. Did you hear anything about the open code Claude situation?
Yeah. Well, I woke up to a tweet from Theo talking about
Oh,
how
yeah.
Claude was going to start cracking down on people using it,
Yeah.
which is also kind of interesting. I mean, I feel like these are the same conversations we have over and over again, because back in the day, Twitter went through a whole thing where
Yep.
if you're consuming the Twitter feeds through third-party apps, you're not seeing our ads. So we're gonna shut
Yep.
down all these APIs or change all these APIs and make it difficult for people.
Yeah, I got so worried too. I like started leaning so hard into open code like over this past week since I've gotten back to work. And then I saw that go out and I was like, "Oh my God, if this shuts off for me tomorrow, I'm gonna be so pissed." And somebody released this tweet. I can't remember. I'll find it. I put it in the Discord and it was like hardcore rap music being like, "We're not afraid of you." And somebody was prompting open code that just said like, "Hi Claude, like how are you doing today?" And it responded back, meaning like it was working again.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Pretty
My
wild.
my favorite, I'll share this and then we can move on. But my favorite, like, comic with AI right now is you had somebody saying like, "Hey, look, I can give AI like a little sentence and it'll blow it out into a full email." And then on the other side, you had somebody saying, "Hey, look, I got a full email. I can just have AI compress it down for me." It was like, "Oh, that's so true."
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure.
So funny.
Sure.
All right, so we thought it'd be fun today to talk about our goals. Brad, for the last few years, you've posted your like year in review, which I
Yeah.
absolutely love. Just looking back and how cool it is to have that historical data. But talking about some of the goals that we had for 2025 and then the ways that we're thinking about 2026.
Yeah, I'll start with talking about my 2025. It essentially got blown up in the middle of the year when I had that unexpected job transition from Stripe to Cloudflare. And so the year was going along, I was like focused, working really hard, and then it was like, "Oh crap, I got to find another job." And so through that whole period, I just kind of let myself go. In a sense, not like let myself go, but like decided to take my foot off the gas when it came to things outside of work. And so a lot of the goals that I had took a back seat, right? So I decided to play a bunch of video games, focus a lot on family and free time. And it was like a really fulfilling, enjoyable year despite all the craziness that happened. Not to mention landing at Cloudflare just made the end of my year. It's been a really good
Mhm.
experience. Um, Outside of that though, I tried to talk with folks online a whole lot more. I spend a lot more time on Discord, in video chats, um, doing this podcast, just trying to be social online to stay connected to like other folks who actually like to code and do the stuff that I do that I just don't really have. I didn't have an office to go to while I was at Stripe to talk about this stuff with. What what else did I say I was going to do? Oh, more Spanish. So we took
Mm.
2 trips to Mexico, um, and I got to use a ton of Spanish, and so I'm just realizing kind of now where the limits of Duolingo are. Like, it's great for daily practice, but it doesn't get you completely to fluent, and so I've been really trying to lean into, like, real conversations, immersing myself, and it's been awesome when you can flip that switch, especially if you're kind of around it for more than uh, a little bit at a time, you really feel like your brain has been flipped to the other language.
You haven't started dreaming in Spanish yet, have you?
No, no. What else did I do? Oh, I cut out coffee and alcohol for a while, like a month or two at the beginning of the year. Um, Coffee's back, alcohol's still pretty low, but I just found that I never reached my fully woken up and aware state
Mm.
like throughout the day. I feel like
Mhm.
coffee in the morning gets me there. I do drink less of it now. I feel like probably about half of what I normally drink, and I don't see myself doing like energy drinks or pre-workout as much anymore in the evenings. But it's like essential still in the morning
Mm.
for waking up.
Have you tried decaf? Like, I'm just curious how much of the placebo effect would it have on you?
I have tried decaf. My parents have decaf at their house, and I tried that, and I'm like yawning while I'm drinking it. It just does not do the trick. Um, and at that point, like I feel like if it wasn't for the effect, I wouldn't drink it.
Mhm.
Arvin's asking, do I play any physical sports? Yeah, I don't do any sports, but I do a ton of like working out and running and strength
I was
training
gonna
and
say you
stuff like
run.
that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
counts.
Yeah. And speaking of like working out, another one of my goals was to try to get like pretty lean this year. My wife and I took a 10-year anniversary trip to Mexico, and because it was such like a big event, we wanted to look really good. So we worked really hard, and I actually saw like the scale hit 170s for the first time in a while. So it's like the hardest I've went on weight loss on a cut in a long time, and it felt really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's basically my 2025. I feel like it was less intense than I wanted it to be. I didn't build any side projects or anything, but there was
Mhm.
enough going on in the rest of life that totally justified that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
How was
So
yours?
haven't written anything out. There's some things that I'm really proud of, and then some things that I'm like really embarrassed about. So the biggest thing is probably a build 12. So I'd started the year off saying, yeah, I'm going to build 12 applications in a month, or sorry, in a year, on average, one a month, and just had some crazy things happen over the past year that totally derailed that. So, for example, started in January and I had a freelance project that I was trying to tie up, and it ended up not getting tied up and just kind of went on and lingered. Some of the interesting things about this project were I had built it originally on Redwood JS. And with that whole pivot, it was like, oh man, I'm giving a code base over to a client that's already out of date. And so I made a point to, hey, I'm going to rewrite this in Laravel. And so I learned Laravel, got everything up and running. That was kind of an interesting experience, basically learning something with the help of AI. It's the first time that I've learned a language that way. So that was a unique experience. The problem was I really struggled with trying to get a lot of the JavaScripty stuff to work within Laravel. I just never the pattern never clicked for me because you're starting with Laravel, you have like all your PHP stuff, you have the templating language that they use called Blade, and then you can use Livewire on top of that, and then you can also use I'm trying to think what's the JavaScript library that they also promote. It's done by the
Inertia?
same guy. No, Inertia's for the front end. Shoot, I'll think of it later. It's a lightweight library for
Alpine?
reactivity. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Alpine. Yeah.
Yeah, with Alpine. So I felt like I was using 4 different languages or
Yeah.
syntax to get the same functionality that I just had with JavaScript. And so I ended up moving it back to Next. So I rewrote this project like 3 or 4 times trying to get it to a good state, and came back to JavaScript. And I'm like, this is why I love having JavaScript on the front end and the back end. You stay in the same language, everything's tight. It helps, and the build states are and the linting is just so much easier with JavaScript.
Yeah.
So it felt good to get there, but I just feel like that also derailed my goals with the Build 12 project. And what happened was, Brad, you gave me the advice in January and said, finish one project before you go on to the next. And I absolutely did not listen. And so instead of feeling like I finished projects, I ended up like starting more projects and creating
Yeah.
more unfinished things. And so
Yeah.
that has felt really gross. That
Yeah,
I've
it makes
just,
you feel worse, like there's a weight
yep.
on you. Yeah.
And nothing's finished at the end of the day. I'm like, I have even more unfinished projects. The whole point of saying I'm going to do 12 in a year was so that I would push myself to finish. And I did the exact opposite. So that
I
didn't
go
feel
back and
good.
forth on this though, because like you should be able to follow your interests and do whatever you want and leave a
Yep.
graveyard of unfinished projects behind, right? Nobody's there to judge you. It's your life.
Mhm.
It's fine. But also, there's that voice inside of my head that's like, it doesn't count unless you finish it and post it, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and maybe the way to get around that is you talk about it as you're building it, even
Mhm.
if you don't finish it,
Yeah.
because the pure act of talking about what you're doing it doesn't have to wait till a finished state, and
Sure.
you're still kind of accomplishing something and putting it out
Right.
there, which is, hint, it's one of my goals for
Yeah.
2026.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I mean, some of it is just like the learning that comes with it. So like even that pivot to Laravel, and then off of it, I learned a lot about Laravel. I learned why I'm definitely all in on JavaScript, and some of the benefits when people say, "Hey, we're looking for the Laravel for JavaScript. Like, what does that mean? What are all the pieces that you need? So, that was a huge part of it. And then, similar to your journey, I also got let go at the end of September from Redwood, and ended up going over to a company called G2I for about 3 months, and then have now joined Cloudflare. So that's been interesting. That's not something that obviously I anticipated, but I remember we recorded an episode in October right after it happened because I got let go at the end of September. And you said, you're going to get that Build 12 project launched this month because you don't have a full-time job. But I underestimated. So I mean, props to anybody that's out there looking for a job. I underestimated how much work it is when you're like,
Yeah.
I need a job, and
Yeah.
finding a job is my full-time job. Just the amount of like filling out applications and sitting in interviews and doing homework assignments and trying to network, follow up with all these people, that really can become a full-time job if you're trying to go hard at it.
That whole job search thing only gets scary when it starts running dry. I've been
Mhm.
saying jobs hire in quarterly cadences, and so at the beginning of the quarter, a bunch of new jobs come out. You start the interview process, you apply to all of them, and then that kind of like slows down, and then you go, "Oh shit, I don't have much to do for like a week or two until the next quarter
Yeah,
starts," or whatever. And that in between time can feel really rough if you kind of miss a quarter.
that's right. Yeah. I think, for me, the podcast it's totally self-serving. I feel like it's one of the best things that I've ever done for my career because I've met so many people through the podcast and different people that we've had on the show. Um, Anytime I have a question I want to ask anybody, I have an excuse to say, "Hey, I have a podcast. Will you come on and talk to me about this thing?" So I think that really helped. And I'm not sure what I would have done if I didn't have that in place. Because any company that I found a job at that I knew somebody that worked there, I usually did not have any issue getting a first interview. Now, after that, of course, is whatever happens, happens. But anybody that I would like cold apply to, I never got a first interview with. It was all just through my network and people that I knew.
Mm. That's funny. I've never had anything I've put out there publicly, including this podcast, change anything. Um,
Mm.
but I did get like every time I turn on my video camera in an interview, the first comment every single time is like, "Whoa, you have a nice setup. Do you do a podcast?" And then I would go,
Mm,
"Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, sure do. That's
yeah,
funny. So I think one of the surprising things this year was I spoke at 4 different conferences, and I had started the year thinking, "Okay, I'm just gonna take a break from conferencing." I have kind of this love-hate relationship with it where I will come up to the conference, I'll have to plan out the talk. Traveling and trying to make sure everything is good at home. Henry's always great with the kids, but sometimes they're like, we don't want you to leave. Just the emotional toll that goes with that. And then like going to the city. I'm an introvert. I do love conferencing, but sometimes it does feel like it is draining to try and be on and talk to people all day. And then you come home. So I decided I was gonna take well, and then so that happens, but then I, like, love it. I'm on the flight home, and I'm like, "How can I sign up for another conference? That was so
yeah."
fun. I got to hang out with all my friends. Can't wait for the next one." So, but I decided that I was gonna kinda take a break, and then I had several people reach out to me this year. So I ended up anybody that had reached out, I was like, "Sure, I'll go do that." So I went to Canada this year. Never been to Canada before. Absolutely loved it. Spoke at Unleash the Web there. I got my first MC responsibility. So I went to Boston and spoke at SquiggleConf and MC'd with Nick Nisi, which was so much fun. I think MCing is my favorite thing. I would it's fun to interact with the audience that way. It's fun to like have an excuse to meet all the speakers. Um, Really enjoyed that. It's kind of similar to what we did with that, Brad, where
Yeah.
we did all these sessions after the talk where we pull the speakers up and I could ask the speakers any questions that I had about their talk.
And it's like no pressure, right? You're not
Yeah,
giving a talk. You just kind of show up,
that's
be
right.
friendly. You still get all the benefits of the conference, meeting people, hanging out
Yep.
without the pressure of preparing and giving a talk.
The biggest pressure is making sure you pronounce somebody's name right.
Ooh, yeah.
But, most of the names that I had were easy, and Nick, just by coincidence, got a lot of the hard ones.
Ooh.
But went to Boston. So I'd never been to Boston before. That was fun. And then I went to React Summit in New York, and I had never been to New York by myself. I've always traveled with a group, but we did spring break with the kids where we went to DC and then took a train up to New York. And so just moving around New York with the family and trying to corral kids and that kind of thing gave me a lot more confidence when I was in the city by myself. And a lot of times when I go to conferences, I'm just focused on the conference. Like I'm going to go to the venue and then leave. But this time I really made an effort to say, okay, I'm going to do some fun things in the city that I don't normally get to do. And I'm going to do the things that I know my family wouldn't want to do if they were up there
Right.
with me. And so
What'd you wind up doing?
I went to B&H Photo.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it's just, like Best Buy on steroids, but they
Yeah.
have their whole delivery system up top
Yeah.
where they're doing all the camera gear. You can go look at all the bags. I mean, I loved that. There's also a 90s rom-com video with Chandler from Friends. It's called Fools Rush In. But in the movie, he goes on and on about these hot dogs called Gray's Papaya that's like very close to Times Square in New York.
Mm.
And so I was like, I'm gonna go get some hot dogs at this hot dog stand. So anyways, those were the two big things that I did. Because again, my kids they might like the hot dogs, but they would not be interested in B&H Photo.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
So
going up this summer. Our
are
plan
you?
is to my family's in upstate New York, and so we're gonna drive to the city either before or after the stay in
Yeah.
upstate. Try to do like 2 to 3 days with the family, see what we can get in.
Yeah, so when I went for React Summit, it's technically in New Jersey because it's in Hoboken. I think that's how you pronounce that. So it's just on the other side of the river, and I was so impressed with that little community. It's so clean over there. It's right across from the river. It's so easy to get into the city, and it had a very different vibe than downtown New York. Even though I know that's like kind of New York, not really New York, but anyways, I think it would be fun to go back and take the kids there because I think they get a completely different impression of New York City being
Yeah.
in New Jersey than they would in New York City.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so those are probably the big things. I feel like this is a nerd on a different level. I decided I wanted to do more things that were non-screen related. And so
Mhm.
I learned how to crochet. So I've turned into one of those. But I made a blanket. But the whole point was just to like try and find something that was non-screen related. And I
Yeah.
think, that kind of goes back to what you're talking about in terms of just being more holistic. Is it also really has changed my perspective about side projects and just kind of some of the pressure that I put on myself. Um, I had this conversation with Claude, and I don't know what I prompted it, but it like got on my case. I was telling some of the goals that I had last year with Build 12 and some of the things that I wanted to do this upcoming year. And it was like, you need to be real with yourself. You just told me you tried to do all these things and you only got 2 done. So you're not going to do all this stuff that you think you're going to get done next year. Let's be realistic. And I was like, whoa, Claude, what did I do to you? Like, come on. And it made me
Sometimes
mad. It made me mad
yeah,
at first.
sometimes I think, like, side projects shouldn't be a thing, and I should just go really hard at work. Like,
Yeah.
try my absolute best, and that always, I'm sure, fluctuates with your mood about your
Mhm.
boss, your team, or the
Sure.
projects that you have, and at least you have control in your own domain with the side
Yeah.
projects, and it's always, you know, motivating and stuff, but right now, I've been going really hard at work, and I feel like it I always say this, my motivation is high to do things outside of work when work sucks. My
Yeah.
motivation is low to do things outside of work when work is filling up my
Yeah.
developer nerd cup.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think you can look at my purchase of domains based on that too, because I'll just get these ideas for projects. I'm like, oh yeah, I should do this when I am frustrated at work. And so, anyways, the compromise that I made with Claude is I am going to try and finish a couple of projects this year, but I'm not going to go hard on side projects. I just want to be able to finish.
Yeah,
There's some things that I want to do just to be able to say, hey, I built this. I'm proud of
right.
it. I'm going to use it even if nobody else does. So, and I gave you a preview of that the other day. I'm working on some podcasting tools that I'm pretty excited about.
That's gonna be
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Um,
Um, yeah. So
what else? What
2026.
else? Yeah,
Oh,
what else for
you want to?
2026 for you? Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just mostly 2 projects. I wanna finish 2 projects. and just like enjoy being at work and then just focus on home stuff, and kind of take some of that pressure off myself to work. One of the things, I don't know if your kids are like this, but it's confusing to, well, probably even Henry too, my family, is that a lot of times because my hobbies do involve the computer and the screens, is that it'll be a holiday and I'll just be, building something fun for me and they'll say, "Hey, I didn't think you had to work today. Like, what are you
Mhm.
doing?"
Mhm.
Some of it's, finding those hobbies that don't involve screens, but some of it is also just cutting back, not because I like necessarily have to, but because I want to.
Yeah. Yeah, I literally have a goal this year that says physical, not digital.
Mhm.
Um, I've been, like, fixing a lot of stuff around the house lately just because I want to do something with my hands.
Mhm.
My son has RC cars. I constantly
Nice.
have them in pieces because he breaks them and I have to fix them, and we go to the hobby shop, and it's a fun thing that we're doing together. Um, but, like, not only just super physical things, like, I still wanna do some projects, but I have strip LED lights here that
Oh,
came from
yeah.
a Christmas gift from my kids. Um, like, we had extra essentially, and then I have where is it? Raspberry Pi showed up.
Yeah.
So this to me is still physical, right? Like, I'm not
Mhm.
just gonna use this as a web server. I wanna actually make electronics projects with this. I
Yeah.
did it in college. I wanna bring it back, like, make an LED blink, stuff like that, and to me, that will scratch that physical itch, while still allowing me to write some software.
Sure. That's so cool. I
Yeah.
the Raspberry Pi was the first time that I've ever done something, like, with a circuit board, trying
Yeah.
to do all
Yeah.
that stuff. I know you're in
In
it.
college, I actually designed and printed my own circuit. Or
That's
like,
so
you take
crazy.
the integrated controller and then you design where the holes on the circuit board will actually go, and then you connect them with traces, send it to a company, and you get one back, and, like, there it is.
That's so crazy. Tom
It's
talked
very
about
cool.
that because he was saying he would do stuff and send it off to China. He's like, "It's
Yeah.
so cheap, it's great," but he's like, "The only
It's very
downside
cheap.
is you design it and then you've gotta wait, like, 2 or 3 weeks for it to come back."
If you use American companies, which there are some
Mhm.
here, you get it back faster. The
Mhm.
problem with hardware is if you did something wrong, it doesn't work. Like, they don't verify that anything works for you. They're like, "You sent me a thing, I'm gonna print that thing." And so you could waste a lot of time and a lot of money going back and forth.
Yeah. You said print that thing, you didn't pull the trigger on the 3D printer.
I didn't. I said, "You know what? I'm gonna start with this whole Raspberry Pi thing, which could very easily lead to 3D printing next." So, like,
Yeah.
imagine, "Oh, I've got this Raspberry Pi and or even like other ESP32s, like smaller microcontrollers, and I'm like making it do things. Like, I've built a circuit, I've got the controller, it's doing something. Oh, now I need an enclosure for it. And if
Mhm.
I essentially find myself in that position, that will kind of answer the question of, am I going to run out of things to print after the first 20 things? Well,
Right.
no, because I'm building projects. I have like reasons to print more things. There it
Sure.
is.
Yeah. After you told me that you got your Raspberry Pi, I went down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out, can I make like a fancy Spotify player with NFC stickers where
That was so cool. I saw the thing that you shared, and then I got into hacking Yodos, and it's all just
Oh, you did?
NFC. Yeah, um, that sounds like a really cool idea.
Yeah.
'Cause, like,
The
all these cards are 48 bits. You put 48 bits of information on here, and you plug it into that thing, and all it does is say, "This is the ID of the thing that I want you to
uh,
play." And that thing is connected to the internet, and it knows how to
oh, that's
grab
how
it
it
and
does
download
it?
it and play it. Mhm.
Okay. I was like, "How does it have a audio file that small?" The only thing I
Yeah.
couldn't justify was when I started, like, trying to price it out. I was like, "Oh goodness, this could be, like, about $250."
Really?
Well, some of it's because I, like, beefed it out, whereas, like, okay, I'll do the Raspberry Pi, and then, oh, look, there's a, display. You can get a touch display that's pretty
You can.
cheap that I can
Yeah.
connect it to the Raspberry Pi, and then in this case, it's like, okay, well, then I'll get the enclosure for it, and then, oh, you've
Yeah.
gotta get the NFC reader so that you can actually tap it, and then we'll also get the
Yep.
stickers and the cards, and then it was, like, about, 250 dollars and I was like,
Yeah.
I think I can just play it on my phone." Oh, man, so funny. Well, I think do we have what else was on the list?
Man,
AI.
AI stuff.
Yeah, so
Always
talking
AI stuff.
about 2026, let's see what happens, but I feel like over the holidays,
Yes.
Opus 4.5 just unlocked a ton of people where just something
Yes.
clicked and they're like, "I'm gonna go all in on AI. This is it."
I was very skeptical beforehand. Beforehand, I was like the autocomplete guy. Like, I'm writing the code and I'm accepting the suggestions as they come. I'm in total control. I'm in the driver's seat and I'm only taking just as much as I can see at a time. I would use AI to like ask some questions or maybe help me find some things in the code base, but I was very much in control. Since Opus and since I started using open code, it's kind of taken me out of the editor. And so I've been like retraining my brain to say like, well, then let the AI try this and see what happens instead of being so in the editor, hands on the code. And it's been nailing things. And I started small and I've been getting a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And what that means is I'm putting more time into planning and more time into
Mhm,
descriptions, 20 to 30 minutes, many back and forths in plan mode. And then there's like that one prompt where you just say, go. Like, and then it just goes. And
Yeah.
I still have a ton of checkpoints. I tell it, do not commit anything without talking to me. Stop after every phase that we've defined.
Mhm,
Let me check. So I'm very much still in control, but I'm like trusting that it's going to do what it's going to do. And this has completely changed my brain. And now I'm just thinking, how can I actually define this workflow to be exactly like what I would have done? And then how can I run more at once? And like
mhm,
I'm slowly getting to the point where like, okay, my agent is coming along. Now, how can I, with open code, you just start new sessions and more agents
mhm,
and just what is, can I really scale like that? Just like have
mhm.
3 tickets running at once, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's going to happen. I need a little bit more time to like come around to it and feel good about it. But I think that's the shift. That's what everybody's going through right now. Where like it's not just about talking to AI to get questions answered or have it do one thing for you. It's about using an agent to really run a loop or finish a task.
Yeah, we need to have, um Nick Nisi on because he
Yeah.
was telling me at SquiggleConf that because he's a Vim user and he does everything in
Ooh.
the terminal, but so he's managing WorkOS's open source projects. And he was saying that he's created this dashboard to basically track all of these agents and where they are in the
Oh,
process and being able to do everything. So he wrote a blog post that covers some of it. I'll share it in the chat. And then he also was on, I need to listen to this episode, but he was also on Changelog and Friends talking about his setup as well.
yeah.
But I'm like, I want to see it. I need to see how he
It's
has everything working configured.
it's pretty cool. Like open code specifically is basically 100% extensible. They have an event system where you can register for any event and run a callback. And so you've got 3 agents running, and let's say one finishes, you can just have it run a small Apple script to pop a notification in the corner and says, agent whatever is done in this session. Go take a look at it. And so that's where I need to get to is like agent orchestration and stuff like that. And I'm sure, you know, like they will start building this in or whatnot, but we're getting to that point where
Yeah.
scaling up is starting to happen. And it's so funny how fast developers, or maybe me, but I
Mhm.
feel like other people are going through this, went from, "No, maybe I'll just use some AI to help me," to now, as soon as, like, we realized it was good enough, it's like, "I am going to go balls to the wall with this thing
Mhm.
and push it as far as I can go and parallelize as much of this as I can."
Yeah. I feel like that's part of the reason why I'm so bullish on Cursor is because like there's little tabs at the top where you can go into agents and then you can see all the different agents that you've launched. It makes it really easy to be able to go through all those things. Exactly where you're showing me the other day with sessions with open
Yeah,
code, except there's a GUI to go along with it. And then
yeah,
they also released debug mode where it is basically kind of geared towards I'm going to help you fix whatever's broken, but
cool.
then they also have a visual editor. It almost looks like Figma within like your window, and you can adjust the padding, you can adjust all those things as if you were in, say, Chrome DevTools making those modifications, but it's going to make all those changes to your CSS or whatever it needs to with Tailwind, whatever class names in order to apply those changes.
That Figma workflow you showed me the other day blew my mind. You should explain it
Yeah.
here for the
Yeah.
audience.
So if Figma has their own MCP server, and I feel like it's probably been around for a while. By a while, I mean a few months. I just hadn't gotten into it until last month. But what you can do is within dev mode in Figma, you can turn on their MCP server. And so once you have that linked, and then you configure, in my case, Cursor to have those Figma settings, so it has the MCP server registered, then you can say within a command. And what I've been doing, I'm sure you could do it a little bit differently, but I've been creating the file so that it's going to put the stuff where I know. Like, I don't want it to like bleed into other things and ruin other things. I want to have a little bit more control over it. But I'll say, hey, and I'll call the correct command using the MCP server. And so the one that I typically use says like reference the selected item. So within Figma, I'll select whatever item I want, then come over to Cursor and I'll run the command that says build out the selected component, stick it in this file. And it dumps everything that's in there. So it'll usually try and mock data. It'll create a bunch of components even within that single file. It'll create some helper functions. And even the other day when I was showing Brad, it recognized that I had ShadCN and it created the tabs. It pulled in that component, created the tabs, got all of that functional and working, and kind of did everything within a one shot. There's certain things I'll need to clean up, but then usually what I do, and I use this as a way to check my code, is I'll go in and I'll highlight a section of code and I'll say, hey, abstract this into another file. And so I'll start pulling apart the pieces, kind of make it cleaner and kind of all work together. But man, it's so much easier than just doing everything by hand. It's crazy how fast you can move when you have those workflows in place. So
Yeah, and I'm telling myself, like, even if I'm only running one agent, I I'm going faster now than I
mhm.
could. Probably
Yep.
like 30 to 50% faster right now. But the minute you start scaling, you're doubling and tripling your output at that point.
Yep. Well, I mean, it can type faster than you. So it's like, even
Yeah.
regardless of what you think of the code, it can type it faster. And I think, for me, a huge unlock in front end development. So front end development, I feel like, has been a little bit more frustrating, and design has also been a little bit more frustrating because
Yeah.
I have an idea in my head. I know this is how I want it organized. And then when I run the commands, it doesn't necessarily happen. But what was the big mental unlock for me is, it was like, okay, if I'm going to build something else, I'm going to go through that planning mode that you were describing, but I'm going to
Mhm.
walk through it one thing at a time. I'm going to feed it those steps to say, do this, do this, do this. And so with the front end development, and even some with design, that's what I started doing, is I've started saying, okay, let's build this. Let's focus on this. So even that front end workflow, a lot of times I'm like, okay, let's create the layout first. I'll remove the other components. We'll build in the
Right.
layout. And then I'll say, okay, now let's focus on this component and do that. And so when you approach it that way and walk it step by step, not only does that keep you in the loop more so that you can check to make sure that the code it's giving you is good code, but it you get such a better high quality output. One thing, and then like kind of similarly with the design side, I've heard people say, well, really, when you're using AI to design, it's more helpful if it can provide you more suggestions. So you kind of get that brainstorming piece out of the way, and then you can run from there to be able to make decisions and kind of orient and push it in a certain direction. One site that I've been playing around with, and I will include a link in the chat for this, is called Aura Build. And the guy behind it has a YouTube channel that's very good. Include a link to that as well. But what this does is, it had, to me, the key feature of this particular application is it has a query builder. And so, if you're coming at it from a developer perspective, you're like, oh yeah, I've used AI to help me write these prompts, or you're using build mode or plan mode to create these prompts. Well, the thing is, with design, there's a whole design language. I took design classes in school, so I know what those things are. I can talk about spacing and negative space and different styles like neo-brutalist style, like all these things. But if you're a developer and you're so focused on the code, you might not know those things. You know
Right,
it when you
right,
see it, but you don't know what to tell the prompt. It's just like when you
right.
go to code, let's say vibe code, it's easier to say I'm using Next.js and Tailwind. If you had somebody that's never coded before, they're not going to know to say use Next.js and Tailwind. They don't even know those terms exist. So the cool thing about this particular program is it has a prompt builder where you can put all that stuff in there. It also has community templates and components that you can drop in, and it allows you to kind of play with different things to be able to, adjust colors and adjust fonts and kind of get to something that's a little bit better. And if you have the pro version, you can also export it as HTML, or you can export a Figma design, which is pretty cool that I can just drop whatever it gives me directly into Figma. So some of the apps that I've been building, I'm like, yeah, I need to come up with an interface for this. I'm just going to get this to generate a couple different options for me to help think through these UI components and these UI layouts. And then I can make decisions from there. And it just speeds up the process more. And that's really what it's about, right? It's speeding up the process.
Yeah, okay, my brain went on two different topics there. One, just going back to the nuts and bolts of it all, as it's generating from Figma, we still don't really have a way to say, this is our component library. Figma should be matching our component library. Use these components. Like you did say that it picked up on ShadCN, but like, at Cloudflare, we use this thing called Kumo.
Right.
And like, while we do have all the Kumo design tokens and some of the Kumo components in Figma, those are just kind of like components you created in Figma. They're not analogous. They're supposed to be analogous with the React components, but how is that Figma MCP supposed to know that? That is going to be the next big unlock where it's like there's some connection between the Figma assets and the component library on the front end. But then
Yeah.
my brain went in the opposite direction and said, will component libraries matter as much if all code is AI generated? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Because it's like, cool, they can change it in one place and it would affect everything
Yep.
versus like really looking through the whole code base and like changing everything that you're bound to miss stuff. But I don't know. Like, I think that's the next unlock is we either trust AI to just write raw, let's say HTML, CSS, whatever, like, and we don't really care about the underlying component structure, or we double down on that and somehow connect all
Yep.
this generation stuff and so make it aware of components, which would probably be the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think it's getting there. I think you do need the component piece there because it's going to be that drier code. It's going to be more efficient code that you can cache. You're not having to load in, a button component every time you want to create a button and it's like what button am I using? So I still think it's important to have those design systems, but I think it's also getting smarter. So it'll be interesting to see how that MCP server with Figma evolves with
Yeah.
the design code link that I shared. One of the things that I was doing was I was uploading screenshots to say, okay, this is the style that I want you to help me work within. And then you can also basically branch off of pages to say, hey, duplicate this page, adapt it for a pricing page, now adapt it for a team page or whatever you're trying to do there. And so you can feel like it all has that same branding because that's another piece of it is trying to make it all feel like it's part of the same site and it's not just creating a new identity every time. I think it's going to continue to get better. I have not experimented a ton with Figma Make because I know they're also trying to do some design stuff. A lot of the Figma Make stuff seems like a great way to create prototypes quickly, and you can also publish those prototypes. So it's just going to continue to evolve. So I know, Brad, you have a hard stop. Let's jump into our.
My hard stop has been lifted.
Oh,
We're
wonderful. Well,
good.
do you want to say anything else then? I'm not
No,
sure
I
if we
think
did.
that we hit on everything. We got
Okay.
2025 recap, we got 2026 goals, AI as always. But I think it's time for picks and plugs.
Lovely. So the next segment of the show, we'll talk about picks and plugs. So these are things that we pick, just things that we like, we bought, whatever. And then plug is generally something that we've worked on. And yeah, what picks and plugs do you have?
So I feel like I got a lot of cool stuff for Christmas, but At
We
the end of
didn't
the day,
go on a deep dive of that.
I know we didn't, but one thing I have been doing lately, and I got something to support it, was I've been sleeping with my watch on and tracking my sleep score.
Oh,
And
yeah.
unsurprisingly, when it's high, I feel good. When it's low, I feel
Mhm.
bad.
Yeah.
Um, but tracking my sleep score was like the gateway to like tracking my mood because
Mhm.
every now and then the watch just like pops up and
Yeah.
it's like, how are you feeling? So I'm like, I'm just gonna start filling that out because I want
Yeah.
data right now.
Sure.
Uh, This was all motivated by like my attempt to switch workout apps, and this app that I tried, Bevel, had like all this information that integrated with Apple Health, and then I decided that was too much. The watch already did it all, and so I just
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna double down on tracking on the watch. Anyways, um, I got a new watch band that was like 1,000 times more comfortable to sleep
Mm.
in. It's their let me find it. Okay. It's their, dark gray Sport Loop, it's called, and so it's kinda like this nice soft material, and it's
Oh, nice.
Velcro, so it's, like, really comfortable, um, but I've been loving sleeping in this, and, yeah, your sleep score should be above 90 if you don't wanna feel like trash in the morning.
So I wore actually this I've had it for a year and a half now, the Aura Ring,
Yeah.
and halfway through December, it crapped out on me. I'd had it for a year and a half. It just like the battery would drain within like 6 hours. It's supposed to last like 4 days. And it was not tracking any of my sleep stuff. So I reached out to their support. Huge shout out to their support. I'm pretty sure I talked to an AI chatbot the whole time, but it was like, very helpful. So I have
Awesome.
no problem talking to a chatbot as long as it's helpful. But they sent me a new ring free of charge. They actually upgraded
Nice.
me too. So I have a different ring. I had the silver one, which they were out of silver. So now I have the rose gold one. But that's also been really insightful too. Just exactly what you're talking about the sleep score. The ring also tells you your stress levels. And they're very clear that your stress level doesn't necessarily mean something bad. Like, actually, it's good to kind of stress your body a little bit when you're working out. It's the recovery and how long it takes you to recover that you really want to pay attention to. But that's
Did
also
you
been
find that
really
those
insightful.
values did you find that those recovery values meant something or, like, had a real physical correlation with how you felt?
The stress value did, because there were some days over the last year where I get, like, a headache at the end of the day, and I'm like, "Is it the
Uh-huh,
weather? Is that what?" And you can actually
uh-huh.
almost every time go in and look and be like, "Oh, I've been stressed out all day. No wonder I have a headache right now." So stuff like that was helpful. It was also just interesting seeing what my body considered as stress. Because some things like, you might have a heated conversation with somebody and you're like, well, my stress value is really high. That's not necessarily the case. And I'm not sure how they determine that metric. But for me, if I'm in meetings all day, it will come back and say, you've had a stressful day. And it's not that I feel tense all day. It just requires me to be present in a different way than if I'm not in those meetings. The other thing that's really interesting is if I get in a flow state, it will almost always say you are in a restorative state, which I think says something about your brain when you're in that flow state and you're just like, I'm like on this is magical. Your
Yeah,
brain just,
that's awesome.
yeah, kind of processes that
Yeah,
a little bit differently.
yeah, I like the idea of kind of being told, like, "Hey, you're recovered properly, like, you can go
Mm,
hard in your workout or in your run or
yeah,
whatnot." Otherwise, I just feel like, it's just kinda telling me the state of the union that I already know
sure.
I feel like crap or I feel good, and,
Yeah.
it would be
I
nice
feel
to
like
draw just, like, a little more.
I feel like for the most part it does that. If you wanna get into that, I've heard that the Whoop band is probably
Yeah.
better for that, but,
There's
like,
just
for me,
no
I
way
don't
I'm
wanna
gonna wear
wear
tooth
I
yeah.
don't wanna wear handcuffs. So, that's the nice thing about the ring is it's been, kind of a little bit more, like, normal. And for me, the reason I'm not getting sleep data off my watch is I charge my watch at night. I did upgrade my watch, on Black Friday, so it would probably be fine now, but, like, before it wouldn't have lasted all day and then all night.
I've been dealing with, like, the whole battery charge thing. It charges in, like, 20 minutes really
Yeah,
fast, so I've just been kind of charging it at random times and just making sure it's charged
yeah,
before, evening time. Even just,
sure.
like, as I'm getting ready for bed, throw it on the charger, it's ready to go.
Yeah. Well, the other side of it is I use my phone for an alarm, and if it's, the alarm will come through on my phone, and I will just snooze it and not even realize it. So it's helpful not to have it's too easy to turn off if it's on my wrist.
That's
So
funny.
cool. What about plugs?
Um, I guess just go to my website,
Yeah.
bradgarapi.com, and read my 2025 in review and my 2026 goals if you want to know what I'm going to be up to this year. I do plan on building some projects. I want to do some with electronics and at least like a little bit of software stuff. So, and I told myself I'm going to share it. Like that's the point. I'm
Yeah.
going to just do like a little bit and put it out there.
Very cool. Yeah, your blog made me want to revisit mine. So right now mine's just like a Next.js template. Uh, which is like such a cop out as a designer because I'm like, I didn't even design it. But I want to it kind of inspired me a little bit, be like, I should post more just about some of the things that I'm
Yeah.
thinking about.
And YouTube videos just are still seeming like too much work
Hmm.
at this point.
Hmm.
I just because there's editing or you have to like
Yep.
look and feel a certain way to sit in front of a camera. And I'm just like, my blog is mine. It's my
Yeah.
place. It's my home. I'm not using a CMS, which is probably the hardest part about it. It's like now I have to maintain it, but the system has been working and I like what I have there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Probably
No,
leaning into that, like sharing there.
yeah. And I totally feel that too. I'm like, I love making YouTube videos. I love making shorts, but it's so time consuming trying to do all of
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel that. Cool. So I'm going to pick, I'm trying to decide. Well, I'll do a couple picks. So I finally went off the deep end and I'm gonna pick Mistborn series. James actually picked this like years ago,
I
and I was like,
remember that.
whatever, whatever. Any book that has a map in the front, no, thank you. But I have loved that series. It's to me, the writing style is very easy to read. It's very relaxing. The pacing is very good. So even though they're thick, I feel like I'm able to make progress. And the funny thing is, that's exactly what James said like 3 or 4 years ago. So, but check out the Mistborn series. And what's cool about the author, Brandon Sanderson, is he's actually a professor at BYU. And so he leads a class on epic writing. I think that's what it's called. Now, I have no desire whatsoever to write a book or a novel, but I started watching some of his lectures just to be like, how do you think about story structure and writing? And that's been fascinating to hear him talk about it. He's a very good communicator, and so I'll share a link to the lecture series if anybody's interested in looking at those. But in context of reading his books, it's like, oh, I see what you did there. You talked about that in your class. So
Hmm.
highly recommend. The second thing, and this is totally a dumb small thing, but I bought a little bitty computer
Oh, that's
and
sick. What does it
it
do?
looks like an old Mac right now. You can tap the top and it'll light up, or it should. Oh, there it goes. But it'll just tell you
Cool.
the time. Like you can cycle through. It has the face of the time. But it just sits on my desk. So I don't collect too many little things for my desk, but I saw that and it just had all the vibes. So, anyways,
Yeah, really
I
neat.
recommend that. I'm sure if you had a 3D printer, you could 3D print an old
Then
Mac.
then you could put an LED screen in it and you could
Yeah.
program it and
It would cost 10 times what I paid for it.
in time, yes.
Yeah, in time. Awesome. And then, for my plug, I don't even know what to plug. I would say that's a weird this is gonna be a weird thing to plug. I'm gonna plug it anyways. I'm gonna say I'm gonna share my GitHub handle because it's like the stuff that I'm gonna be creating is gonna be there, and I'm gonna be trying to do everything in open source and releasing code. I also have a few packages there that I'm pretty proud of. I have one called Lemon Lime SVGs that I built last year, where it'll take all your SVGs and automatically stick that within a SVG sprite, and it'll give you an icon component. It makes it so easy to work with when any project you need, you just hand it the SVG sprite. It can even give you a couple of pre-made icon components. It asks you, hey, what framework are you using? So it'll give you a Svelte component or an Astro component, a React component. So there's anyways just some fun things there. I have bare bone flags. So I had to create a feature flag system. Just we wanted to be bare bones, not go through anything formal like Launch Darkly or anything like that. And so you just have a config file, and in your config file, you can set different feature flags on or off. So just stuff like that, little packages. So check that out is my GitHub. So my handle is A Haywood.
Nice.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. I think Arvin has jumped off the chat, but thanks for hanging out. We always love to see the comments and love to have feedback. I think Jordan's off too, but anyways, thanks guys for sticking around. And for now, if you are listening after the fact in your podcatcher of choice, please leave a rating and review. That's how we find special guests. That's how we get sponsors, how we do more fun things like this. So it helps people find the show. But for now, that's all we got. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. But thanks for everybody.